¿Cómo están? Buenas tardes, bienvenidos. El día de hoy va a ser un programa muy especial y como siempre quiero dar la bienvenida desde Australia a Martín. Martín, ¿cómo estás? Buenas tardes, bienvenido.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
¿Cómo
Felices
estás?
Pascuas.
Estaba platicando con todos que el día de hoy es especial. Tenemos un invitado de lujo y tan de lujo es que normalmente el podcast es el cuarto sábado de cada mes y el día de hoy vamos a hacer una excepción para adecuarnos a su agenda y estar todos presentes. Antes de empezar, veo que por ahí está tu hijo. Martín, presenta a tu hijo si quieres.
Sí, acá está Nico. Hola.
¿Cómo estás, Nico? Bienvenido, Nico.
Sí.
Brevemente les quiero platicar con los cambios de horario, es un relajo. En la Ciudad de México son las 4 de la tarde, para Shane son las 6 de la tarde, en Australia creo que es domingo, no sé si a las 10, 11 de la mañana, también cambió, no sé cómo estén allá.
Sí, son las 8 de la mañana, por eso la confusión. O sea,
Sí, no sé.
generalmente es a las 9.
Sí, ajá.
Y la impresora está jugando, perdón.
No, no te preocupes. Sí, aquí fue totalmente diferente. Pensamos que ibas a empezar a las 10, pero no, empezaste una hora antes. Pero bueno, prácticamente queremos dar la bienvenida a todos nuestros amigos de no solo de México, de Latinoamérica, de Argentina, incluso algunos de Estados Unidos. Esto va a ser muy especial por dos cosas. Es un invitado de lujo, como lo hemos comentado. Vamos a hacer esto como siempre, lo hicimos con nuestro último invitado, inglés-español para traducir. Shane habla puro inglés, pero bueno, nos vamos a apoyar para, para que pueda entender prácticamente todo. Un saludo a todos los amigos que empiezan a dar comentarios. Trataremos de responder todos los saludos y preguntas un poco al final de la transmisión. Pero bueno, el día de hoy lo que vamos a ver, no sé si quieres comentar algo más, Martín, o ya de plano entramos a Shane, ¿cómo ves?
Yo creo que tenemos tanto material que directamente vayamos con Shane.
Perfecto, déjame darle la bienvenida a Shane. Déjame aquí añadirlo. Shane, how are you?
Good evening, or good morning to you, Martin and Nico.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Okay, Shane, as we mentioned, we're going to make this kind of English, Spanish. People from all around the world is watching, obviously in Spanish and English, and we're going to make this is as fun as we can. Nico is going to help us. Nico is the son of Martin.
Nico, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Okay, so Martín, ¿quieres empezar? Si quieres, tú empieza preguntándolo y vamos traduciendo como lo hemos hecho.
Okay, thank you, Shane, again for this opportunity. Nico is going to make you the first question of the morning, afternoon.
Good.
So you can read it.
Do you want to start by introducing yourself and then a bit about your history with model railroading?
Okay, well, first of all, let me say thank you very much, Martin, Eduardo, and Nico, for inviting us to join the Just for Fun live broadcast. We really appreciate the opportunity and thank your viewers for tuning in as well. And a little history. So, boy, I've been model trained since I was a young boy. I started with a Marx train set probably when I was about 5 years old. So I started in O gauge and then moved to HO probably when I was about 10. And then in my teens, I did N scale and finally came back to HO probably about 10 years ago. So been in the hobby pretty much all my life.
Okay.
Traducimos para que, ¿te parece? Vamos traduciendo poco a poco.
Sí.
Bueno,
primero que todo, James agradece por la posibilidad de participar en este canal y él dice que empezó con la escala N cuando era chico y después pasó a la escala H0.
Así es, también dijo que creo que a los 5 años tuvo un set escala O y regresó hace apenas 10 años a HO, pero bueno, es por lo veo todo un experto. O, N, HO, las principales escalas, creo que son las que ha recorrido. Sigue adelante si quiere la siguiente de historia. Dile a Nico si quiere que haga la otra parte de la historia.
Do you have a favorite railroad line?
I do, and probably goes back to my past. My father actually worked for the Chicago and Eastern Illinois Railroad, so I've got a real affection for the CNI. And then I model in the 1980s a bridge line. It's an HO bridge line that we've just gotten to work on the track planning stage, but it's between the CSX and the Norfolk Southern right at the time of all the mergers. So it's it's CSX with chassis system and Seaboard Coastline and Family Lines and that whole era, and then of course Norfolk and Western and Southern.
Okay. Which era you say? 1980s, Jane?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mid 1980s.
Yeah. Okay. He has you have a current layout. What scale you say?
HO is the layout we're designing
HO.
right now.
Yeah. So Jane tiene un layout en escala H0 o HO. Él hace las líneas chassis, CSX, todo en el año 1980. Eduardo,
en la zona de Chicago, estaba haciendo de
Chicago.
Sí, hijo de Chassis System, CSX, y prácticamente alrededor de esa época. Si quiere la siguiente pregunta, creo que la siguiente pregunta que le vamos a hacer es si tiene algún modelo en especial, o sea, alguna locomotora en especial. Nico, hazla si quieres en inglés.
Do you have a favorite model in HO and N scale?
Because is that for me personally, or is that for the company?
Personally.
Personally, yeah, I probably got two. In the steam era. Your viewers probably have to look this one up because it's pretty unique. But really, like the Chicago and Eastern Illinois Railroad had a locomotive called the Dixie Flagler, and it was a streamlined steam locomotive. So that's probably my favorite, the steam era. And then my favorite in the diesel era, I've always liked the Jeep 30. I think the GP30's got that really big husky look to it, and it's always been a personal favorite.
Okay, and also you want to say to us from your company, please?
Sure. I'd say from the company's perspective, it has to be our first locomotive, and that'd be the big blow turbine, just because it was so unique and so different for the marketplace, and it's the locomotive that really established us in the market. So that is definitely one for me from the business side.
Ok, si quieres empezamos al revés. Lo último que contestó, ¿cuál era la locomotora favorita de la compañía? De Big Blow, la turbina de Big Blow, este modelo especial. Y después, bueno, al principio dijo cuál era su favorita. Si quieres, tú di cuál fue su
la favorita en vapor, una Streamliner de vapor de ferrocarril Illinois. Y después la GP o la GP30, porque le gusta que son grandes, digamos, son como bulky, son cuadraditas, le gusta ese estilo de locomotoras. Quiero agregar que nosotros tuvimos la suerte de adquirir una de esas turbines que hizo ScaleTrains, especialmente la escala H0, y realmente es un modelo, creo que al mismo nivel que cualquier modelo de brass o bronce, con digamos, lo mejor que aparte de los detalles, fueron los primeros decoders que trajeron como la batería incorporada, pero utilizó de LOX1 la tecnología cuando la locomotora pasa sobre los cambios, hace el ruido de vías. Eso fue algo único.
¿De cuál dices, Martín? ¿De cuál fue esta?
La Big Blow, la turbina, y después hicieron el mismo modelo en N-Scale y tenía las mismas características. Y para los que modelamos en Scale, ese factor de extender cómo corren en la vía es fabuloso. Change, I just was adding like the Big Blow turbine was, in our opinion, one of the best models currently in the market. You incorporate that log sound decoder with the sound when the chance bit over the turnouts. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And also you extend the energy into the log sound decoder and the battery, so it's like a little battery running over. So we never have an issue in HO scale or N scale. So I think they're impressive models.
Thank you. Well, there was so much technology that went into that locomotive, and it's really what helped differentiate us in the marketplace, even from our first announcement.
Yeah, also to say that detail of putting a magnifier inside the box, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was my idea.
Lo otro que estaba diciendo que es tan bueno el detalle, le decía Jane, que incorporan en la caja cuando uno compra el River Counter Model una lupa para que uno pueda ver los detalles, que realmente es algo único y Jane acaba de aclarar que fue su idea.
Sí, muy buena idea. Una de las preguntas que muchas personas nos hacemos cuando queremos empezar algo es, ¿irá bien? ¿Funcionará? ¿Cuánto dinero? Y queremos preguntarle a Shane cómo fue ese proceso de me gustan los trenes a quiero invertir dinero y hacer una compañía. Es ese gran paso. ¿Te la haces tú, Martín? Sería para terminar la parte de historia. ¿Cómo decidió hacer esa inversión?
What made you want to make your own company, and did you have any fears when you wanted to make the leap into the model railroading business?
Nico, that's a great question, and it's probably a lengthy answer, so I'll try to keep it short. When we started the company, the idea was first discussed between. There's four of us. I guess I should back up. There's four of us who started the company. There's myself, Mike Hopkin, who leads our product development team. We've got Joe Alvera. Joe leads our artists. And then there's Paul Ellis. Paul does our product development, mainly our locomotives, but he does do some freight cars as well. The idea really first started with Mike and I, and it started at the National Train Show in Atlanta back in 2013. And it was one of those where, and I don't know if your viewers know, but we actually worked for Athearn, all four of us at that time. And Athearn is owned by a company called Horizon. That's their parent company. And there were projects that we wanted to do while we were at Athearn, but we knew that we would never get the okay to do them. And kind of it really started as a joke. It really started as, well, gosh, what if we could make our own decisions? And I said, well, what if they're bad? I mean, that's kind of scary. But we decided to take that leap. And it in the beginning, when we wrote the first business plan, it was very scary. But as the time went by and we revised the business plan and we really looked at where the opportunities are, and boy, I think there's just a tremendous amount even today in the market. Mike and I are men of faith, and did a lot of praying, a lot of asking for guidance, and really there was just a peace after a while, and it made a lot of sense when working with our families, and then of course bringing in Joe and bringing in Paul. It was what I like to call a dream team, and we've had some real talent along the way, even greater talent, and so that fear went away pretty quickly.
Yeah. Okay. Traduzco. Bueno, es que él trabajaba en una compañía en Athearn antes y ahí trabajaba con otras 4 personas, en las que destaca a una persona que se llama Mike. Cuando ellos estaban bajo Athearn, tenían sueños de producir modelos que no se los permitían porque eran como modelos, digamos, muy avanzados para la época. Entonces decidieron en un momento juntarse y ver si podía esto transformarse en realidad. Cuando fueron a una exposición de trenes en Atlanta, ahí empezaron a hablar y al principio parecía como fuera una broma, pero cuando empezaron a pensarlo en serio, decidieron sentarse y hacer un business plan, o sea, un estudio de cómo poner la compañía. Y bueno, ahí vieron que era posible. Y también destaca que Mike es una persona de mucha fe, y a través de su fe es como que pidió como guía espiritual para aplicarla a esta nueva compañía. Y bueno, y ahí se animaron, o sea, realmente se pusieron las pilas los 4 y se lanzaron a lo que realmente hoy es ScaleTrains.
Dijo 2013, ¿verdad?
2013.
2013 ¿o?
2013.
Sí, 2013, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
Sí, y creo que los 4, su Dream Team, trabajaban todos en Athearn, creo que fue donde dijo que ellos...
Sí, correcto. Y él lo llama como un Dream Team, como dijo, un equipo soñado. I would like to say to you, Jane, this is something I saw in other industries, as I mentioned before, I follow the toy industry, and I saw many people working for big companies. Suddenly they have these dreams, and they can achieve them, and then they put all together and all that faith and strength, and they go for a new project. And like I said, really, that's impressive. So I was saying to Shane, like, esto es algo, le estaba diciendo a Shane que esto es algo como pasa en muchas industrias, cuando hay un grupo de gente que tiene sueños más allá de lo que es normal y son rechazados o no tienen lugar, se juntan, unen fuerzas y se animan a proyectos, y realmente es impresionante.
Sí, y ese es un tema para otra transmisión, seguir un poco tus sueños. Mucho en México se dice que si haces lo que te gusta, eventualmente recibirás dinero. Bueno, llevamos un rato, aún no recibimos dinero, esperamos que muy pronto podamos vivir de esto, pero sí es algo muy cierto, seguir tus sueños, cuando veas una oportunidad, buscar personas, como lo hizo Shane, en este caso eran 3 más, y bueno, no es fácil, pero un business plan y con tiempo, creo que ese es el mensaje que podríamos dejar para todos. De historia creo que sería todo. No sé si te gustaría preguntar algo más, Martin, o Shane, would you like to add something more about the history, about the ScaleTrains history, something that you want to share?
Well, I could tell many stories about the history. I'll tell you, it's definitely the Lord's plan. It's really amazing to me how many times we've been at the edge of failure and there's just been a door open for us. We wrote the first business plan in 2013. We went to Train Fest in Milwaukee in November of that year, and we knew we needed an artist. And Joe, he at that time had 2 small boys, and of course is married. And we sat down that evening, and Mike and I both in a hotel room, scared to death to share the business plan with him. And we went through everything. And at that very moment, Joe looks at me and he goes, "I'm in." And I'm like, "Joe, you should probably ask your wife." And he's like, "No, Shane, I'm in." And I'm like, "You really need to talk to Alexis." And he says, "No, I can convince her. I'm in." So Joe came on board pretty quickly, and then that was in November, and we went to China in February of 14 to find a factory place to do all the tooling, the engineering, production, all of those things. And during that trip, we learned we had a lot more capacity. So that's when we decided to approach Paul. We approached Paul, I think it was in March of 14. Took Paul a couple of weeks. He really wanted to think about it, wanted to make sure this is where he wanted to be. And he ended up coming on board. So in May of 14, we left Horizon and started our own adventure.
That's right. ¿Te puedes traducir, Martín?
Sí. Él también dice que tiene muchas historias para compartir, pero una de las que destaca es al principio, en 2013, contactó a una persona que se llama Joe, que es uno de los diseñadores, y fueron en un train show en Milwaukee en noviembre. Ahí le preguntó a Joe si quería unirse, y Joe saltó, sí, obviamente, que era como también parte de un sueño. Es como, Jane lo define, es como que la fuerza de la fe es como que los impulsa a hacer este proyecto, esta realidad. Entonces decidieron juntarse, y le preguntó a Joe por qué, realmente porque era una persona que tenía 2 hijitos recién casados, o sea, era el riesgo, y dice, porque lo sentía realmente. Entonces veía esa oportunidad en el futuro, y bueno, ahí se juntaron y decidieron al año siguiente ir a China para empezar a buscar una fábrica, para empezar a hacer los diseños y cómo es el tooling, cómo se arman las locomotoras, y ahí arrancaron. O sea, realmente mucha fe utilizada en esta compañía.
Sí, lo quisiera resaltar 2 cosas, lo que mencionó, su fe y la otra parte, bueno, un buen business plan, porque creo que eso es la clave. I just said that I have 2 things to say, the faith in the Lord and your business plans. They work together.
Yes, absolutely they do. Yeah. We would definitely not be as successful as we are if this was not, as Mike says, God didn't bring us this far to fail. And I believe that every day.
we moved that one. This is out of curiosity because red is my favorite color. Why red?
Why red? It's a great question. There's a couple of reasons. When we were first starting the company, we were looking at packaging or ideas, and there was no other brand whose main color was red. And as you know, red is a color that really stands out. So we knew our boxes would be very visible on the shelf. And the other reason too, we chose red, and it's kind of a different reason, but in China, red is a very powerful color. And we knew if we started with strong branding like that, it would probably make it easier for us to open some doors in China with manufacturers. So, but the primary reason was red would definitely stand out on the shelf in a retail store, or when you're walking through a trade show and you see our booth in the red, it's just, I mean, it just jumps right out at you. So it's a very strong color.
Traduzco. Le pregunté a Shane por qué ScaleTrains usa mucho el rojo, digamos, es el color de ellos, como los identifica. Dice que, bueno, obviamente el primer motivo es porque el color rojo se destaca y obviamente no había ninguna compañía en el mercado que utilizara como base ese color. O sea, cuando uno tiene una caja en digamos, una estantería de un negocio, se puede ver, o un train show, se ve, digamos, obviamente el color. Y también les ayudó para cuando fueron a China, porque en China es uno de los colores simbólicos de esa nación, los ayudó a encontrar proveedores. Y bueno, destaca que es un color muy fuerte y les trajo suerte también.
Así es. Okay, Shane, we're going to move to the present.
Okay.
Vamos a hablar un poco actualmente cómo se encuentra ScaleTrains, cuál es el presente. La primera pregunta, si quieres, Martín, Nico, la diferencia entre máquinas, si quieres.
So you have two lines, you have your rivet counter and your operator. Could you tell us about the difference between those?
Okay. Well, we actually have 4 lines. There's Kit Classics, Operator, Rivet Counter, Museum Quality. And the difference between rivet counter and operator, this was one of the concepts that we had before we started the company. The idea was to utilize the same tooling base, but create 2 different levels of product, because we believe that there's people who like to run trains. They like them to look realistic. They want them to be high quality, but they're not as concerned about all the detail and making sure that everything is specific for a railroad. And sometimes those modelers are on a budget, and that's why we've created the operator line. And then you've got the rivet counter line for the modeler who really wants that railroad road number, era specific detail, and is willing to pay for those kind of models. So what we did then is by using the same tooling to essentially create both, instead of spending 2x, we spend about 1 1/3 to 1.5x, and we're able to get 2 models out of it. Unfortunately, though, operator hasn't performed like we expected it to. Rivet counter is definitely our signature line, and where most of our sales come from.
Ok, te traduzco entonces. Perdonen la pregunta, le preguntamos por solamente 2 de las líneas, ellos en realidad tienen 4. Tienen el kit, tienen operator y operador, river counter, que es el que conta los remaches, por decirlo de una manera, y la de museo. Obviamente el kit es para armar, operador es para aquellas personas que quieren operar y no están tan interesados, obviamente, en los detalles al mínimo, pero obviamente tiene un valor económico inferior. River Counter es la línea donde uno realmente va a todos los detalles, y la línea museo, que es la más alta de ellos, cuando ponen todo, digamos, toda la carne al asador, como diríamos en Argentina, donde tiene desde el mínimo detalle hasta, esos son los modelos que yo mencionaba que tenía la lupa. Obviamente esto tiene un sentido para la gente que compra, porque obviamente depende el presupuesto de cada uno, puede adquirir estos diferentes modelos, pero para una compañía ellos pueden usar el mismo molde, pero obviamente agregando detalles que le da más valor y es más rentable, por supuesto.
Muy bien. Le vamos a preguntar a Shane, desde su punto de vista, cómo siente la compañía si está en el lugar que quiere o hasta dónde quiere llegar. ¿Cómo la ve en este momento? Okay, Shane, the next question is, how do you see your own company? Where are you? Do you need to go further? What is your vision?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yeah,
we're very excited about the future and where we're going. As we look ahead, we're making significant investments in the company right now for things that you'll see over the next few years. We hear people say all the time they believe that the market is shrinking. There's fewer model railroaders, and I don't know. I just don't subscribe to that. I don't really agree with that. I think it's a matter of bringing products that the customer wants, and that really helps the company grow. And there's a lot of new projects coming, and you'll see us grow beyond just locomotives and freight cars. Of course, with the MTH acquisition, now we have track and some other accessories for that. And you'll also see us, I think, branch out even further.
Okay. Traduzco. Él ve que al momento el estado de la compañía es muy bueno, excitante para él. Están haciendo muchas inversiones, ven un futuro muy positivo. Obviamente se basan en lo que el cliente quiere, o sea, hacen un research, están atentos a lo que el mercado demanda. Ven que el crecimiento es exponencial y destacan obviamente algo que vamos a hablar muy pronto, que es de la incorporación de la marca MTH, y que también ahora están dispuestos a producir vías, justamente MTH tenía vías, entonces tomaron esos moldes que les va a permitir ampliarse a más clientes y a más oportunidades en el mercado.
Y algo importante que mencionó, ¿no? Se escucha mucho en algunos grupos de Estados Unidos que el hobby está muriendo o que disminuye. Y Sean comenta que la idea es producir más modelos, lo que la gente quiere, y eventualmente se da el negocio. Que creo que eso nos lleva a la siguiente pregunta, que la tienes por ahí.
Sí, Nico.
So, how do you select what models you're going to make?
Nico, you asked the good questions, the tough questions. So, this is a hard one to answer just because it really varies. But what I will say is we really enjoy and appreciate customers sending us product suggestions, whether that be at a trade show or social media, whether it's like a live broadcast like this. We also created a new ideas at ScaleTrains.com mailbox so people can send us their ideas. And what we do, except for last year, of course, but normally what we do is we have an annual strategic planning, and we spend a couple of days working on our new announcement schedule, our production schedule. And during that time, we look at all the ideas that have come in, trying to weigh in what are people really asking for at this current time, and then looking at what we already have planned and seeing if we need to make adjustments. Deciding on a specific product, maybe I'll let you guys translate what I just said there, and then we can talk about specific products.
Okay. La primera parte de lo que nos dice, obviamente la pregunta, no sé si la dijimos, la preguntó cómo selecciona.
Sí, que cómo escoge los modelos para hacer.
Sí. Obviamente ellos escuchan al cliente, aprecian mucho las ideas que les llegan a través de social media, o sea, de Facebook, de YouTube, o durante las exposiciones. Obviamente el año pasado con COVID no se hicieron, pero están atentos a lo que la gente pide y obviamente juntan esas ideas. Menciono una palabra muy importante: ellos tienen un planeamiento estratégico. O sea, esto es muy importante para compañías, cualquier cosa en la vida. Uno tiene que tener una estrategia, tiene que tener una dirección y tiene que tener un planeamiento. Ellos incorporan estas ideas en su planeamiento y si encajan en lo que la compañía está haciendo o lo que la compañía quiere hacer y obviamente ven una posibilidad en el mercado, ahí donde deciden a lanzar el modelo. O realmente es la primera parte, ahora nos va a explicar cómo sigue. Digamos que la primera es ver si este modelo encaja económicamente con los destinos de la compañía.
Y de ahí lo ligamos con la primera pregunta de la siguiente sección, que vamos a hablar de producción. So, Shane, we're going to link this question with the next one.
Okay.
Could you explain us a little bit about the process of how you draw something and then you transform into a locomotive? What is the process for that?
Okay. This is probably a multi-part answer. There's a lot that goes into that. First of all, when we're talking about how do we decide what we're going to make, we look at many different things. First and foremost, one of the things we've learned quickly is we need early in our life, in our company's life, we've needed to do models that we can produce over and over again. As a manufacturer, you really make your profits on your second, third, fourth runs, and that's the money then that you use to invest in other new products. So you can't have something that you might get one or two production runs out of. So maybe you recover your tooling investment and you make a little bit of money, that there's just not enough there that you can then go back and invest in new models. So when we look at things like take the SD40-2 or the -9 or the ES44, we say, okay, can we make this? I don't know if the word I want to use is better, but can we make this where there's more detail, more features, so that people who already own those locomotives from other manufacturers will say, gosh, I like what I have, but the ScaleTrains model takes it to another level. So I will, put mine in the display case, I'll sell off what I have, and then I'll step up into this other product. That's one thing we look at, and then I'll share some more.
Okay. Él dice que obviamente la pregunta de Eduardo era que, o sea, cómo planean, o sea, desde que se hace el dibujo a la producción, y Jane nos quiso explicar al principio que también lo que tienen que ver es importante cuando deciden el modelo, que este modelo pueda ser una inversión a largo tiempo. Generalmente él nos aclara que las locomotoras recién empiezan a recuperar el valor de la inversión a partir del segundo, tercero o tercer, rango, ¿cómo lo llamarías? Relanzamiento, ¿no? Digamos que lanzan 3 o 4 veces. Entonces, buscan que a futuro el cliente pueda recomprar esa locomotora con detalles, o sea, que tenga larga vida, porque obviamente el tooling es muy caro, es algo que cuesta muchísimo, porque aparte no solamente es el tooling, es el diseño de la locomotora, obviamente, y pone como ejemplos la S44 y la Dash 2, que ya hicieron un par de relanzamientos, y la idea es que la gente aprecie esa diferencia entre los modelos, la evolución del modelo, y obviamente comparando con otras marcas. Sí, Jane, yes.
Okay. So the other thing we look at too is, and there's a lot of different factors, but some things we consider are how many railroads own the locomotive, what's the lifespan of that locomotive, how many versions are there, how have the details changed over the years. There are different railroads, of course, that sell better than other railroads, so that factors into it. There's different eras that sell better than other eras. Different paint schemes will even sell from the same railroad. You might have one that's more loved than another paint scheme. So we'll look at those kind of things. What kind of features or functionality can we bring? And there's this perception that just because a model's never made before, that it's going to sell well. And that's not really true. It can be and it can't be. It depends on the locomotive or the freight car. But we'll use all of those things to factor into the decision of what we're going to start, and then we move on to the next step.
Okay, excelente.
Es importante ahí, a lo mejor, Martín, que comentes antes de traducir un poco lo que platicamos. Lo que acaba de decir se me hizo excelente. No porque no existe un modelo, el hecho de producir significa que se va a vender bien. Aquí en algunos grupos de México siempre hay la discusión de que no hacen muchos modelos mexicanos, ya llegaremos a eso, pero el hecho de que se haga un modelo especial no significa que sea negociable o vaya a redituar. Eso es algo muy especial. A ver si luego vamos a ahondar un poco de algunos datos que nos dio, pero sí, qué bueno que lo toma desde ese punto. O sea, no significa que el hacerlo significa que vas a vender.
Claro, correcto. Agregando lo que dice Eduardo, él dice que obviamente consideran, supongamos, vamos a tomar una locomotora diésel como ejemplo, si esa diésel hay muchos ferrocarriles que la tienen, si hay muchas versiones de la misma locomotora, obviamente saben que las locomotoras van evolucionando y van cambiando detalles a través del tiempo. obviamente cuánto tiempo esa locomotora está en el ferrocarril, si es del presente o del pasado, cuánto fue la vida útil de ese prototipo, estamos hablando, ¿no? Obviamente las versiones en los esquemas, o como ferrocarriles, por ejemplo, vamos a decir UP o Union Pacific, generalmente a veces hace repintados. Ustedes tienen, si van a las locomotoras Heritage, es la misma locomotora, pero con 8 o 7 esquemas diferentes, más los nuevos que están saliendo. Entonces, ese modelo puede ser redituado en el futuro usando diferentes pinturas. Y como dijo Eduardo, que obviamente no quiere decir que ese modelo, porque sea muy popular, se va a vender. Y otro detalle que dijo Jane es que hay unos ferrocarriles que se venden mejores que otros, y ahí le voy a preguntar, Jane,
Yes.
Without any, I don't know, it's a problem to mention, but do you have kind of ranking of the railroads with the best sale, if the more popular, if you want to say that?
Are you talking about scheme, the most popular scheme?
Oh no, it's like Union Pacific, BNSF.
Mm-hmm.
Or
it's your modern railroads, your Union Pacific, BNSF, your Norfolk Southern, CSX, going to tend to be the most popular. And then there are some going back in history, but those are going to be the more common because that's what people see today.
Yeah, because for us, from living overseas, we can feel, like I say, obviously, in the case of Australia, Eduardo, he can add about Mexico, but Australia is Union Pacific and Santa Fe more than BNSF.
Yep.
In Argentina, is more Santa Fe and, Union Pacific too. It's changed. So it's very hard from our point of view to see what happened in the US.
Sí, me preguntó cuál era el esquema de ferrocarril que más se vende. Obviamente en Estados Unidos Union Pacific, BNS, Norfolk Southern. Mucho de lo que dijo Shane, la gente está comprando lo que ve. O sea, la era moderna es lo que es el negocio. Para México, obviamente, las Ferromex es importante, pero lo que he visto que muchos de los aficionados en México fueron exferrocarrileros o les tocó la era de nacionales de México, que son importantes, pero bueno, ya por ahí Shane nos va a complacer con una pitufa. Shane, I'm talking that you're gonna please Mexican fans with the Smurf, like we said, the new SD40 that we say pitufa in Spanish.
And I heard you say Ferromex. Ferromex is definitely the best-selling Mexican railroad coming from our Athearn days. Okay. And Ferromex ES44s are definitely going to happen sooner than later.
That's good news.
Eso es como primicia, lo escucharon aquí. Tarde temprano llegar a Ferromex. I just say that this is like a big news for Mexican fans. Sooner or later, we're going to have Ferromex in ScaleTrains. We already hope rivet counter.
It will definitely be rivet counter. You'll probably see it, I would say, in early 22.
That's great. Señores, junten dinero, 2022, Ferromex, rivet counter, hay que romper cochinito. Ya lo escucharon en español. I just said a joke in Spanish that you need to break the, I don't know how to say. ¿Cuál sería la traducción, Martín? Cochinito es como tu caja fuerte.
Alcancía, Nico, alcancía, the savings piggy, the little piggy.
Break the piggy bank.
Yeah, that's great. You need, in order to pre-order for 2022.
Excellent. Okay, if we are happy, we moved. I don't know. We finish with that one. We can move to the decoded one, Shane, or something else we're missing in the model.
Well, it just depends on how deep you want to get into the development process, because we just got as far as deciding what we're going to make.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far along you want to go.
Yeah, if you want to continue until you get into the container.
No, yeah, I could do a brief overview.
Que hable un poquito del decoder, creo que es importante. Shane, could you talk a little bit about why did you choose ESU locks and decoders for the company? I think this is important. No hablamos de tiempo, pero para ver cómo vamos con el tiempo y las preguntas, pero sería bueno hablar de los decoders y vemos las otras dos secciones que nos faltan. Okay, Shane, go ahead, please, decoders.
So when we were first starting our company, of course, back in our Athearn days, we had a relationship with Soundtracks, and we also knew Matt from ESU, and we were exploring both opportunities. And for us as a company, one of the challenges is having that startup capital, and the way that Soundtracks worked at that time, as a manufacturer, they would program the boards in Durango and then ship them to China. And China really doesn't like electronics imports. They like to export electronics, but they don't like to bring them in.
Okay.
And one of the challenges is you would program then, take a run of SD40-2. So we make 6 different road names. You might have 6 or 8 different sound files depending on the horns and the bell and some of the other features. And so the challenge would be, and then also too, you're programming the lighting effects. So you could have ditch lights, you could have beacons, you could have class lights. So each one of those programs is different.
Mm.
And so you would buy your boards and then ship them all to China. Well, you couldn't reprogram them. So they would sit in inventory and you could tie up a lot of money in boards waiting for the next production run. And because sometimes production runs are years apart, you could literally have many thousands and thousands of dollars tied up in just boards. With ESU, the way it works is they're manufacturers in China, and literally, like, if we ordered boards today, they could be at our factory within a day or two, and all the boards are programmed right at the factory. So let's say we get, just pick a number, let's say we get 1,000 boards in and we only need 980. Those other 20 boards can then be reprogrammed for the next project. So now we don't have as much inventory tied up in China. And we made the decision. ESU was really starting to come on as a contender about the time we started. They were really working on becoming a major player in the market. And because of that, coupled with the lack of having to keep inventory on boards, that's why we decided to go with ESU.
Okay, that's impressive, Jane. And also, before I do the translator, something you say, like I say, the lights of a locomotive. Your models are impressive, really, to have.
Thank you.
Let's say any model, really, the Turbino, the Rio Grandes, the tunnel motors, like you can change the color of the lights.
Mm-hmm.
That's thanks because the decoder allows to that. And again, what I mentioned before, I think is super important, that extra charge into the decoder. Really, that's something as a modeler, like I say, I love your model to be sitting on the shelf, but seeing that model running perfectly on the track is amazing. So we really love that. So
thank you.
That's okay. So I'm going to translate. So la traducción de lo que dijo James era, la pregunta era por qué ScaleTrains decidió ir con los decoders de Loxam ESU. Él explicó que estuvo viendo 2 opciones al principio, trabajando para Adam. Obviamente entrevistamos a George la semana pasada. Soundtracks era una de las opciones y Loxam era la otra. El problema que tenían ellos es que, como explicó George la semana pasada, los decoders de Soundtracks vienen con el sonido cargado de fábrica y China, cuando ellos fabrican en China, obviamente, mandar electrónica a China es un problema. Entonces, si ellos tenían que hacer una producción de digamos, 1.000 locomotoras, tenían que mandar 1.000 decoders con ese sonido cargado. Pero si tenían algún problema con esa producción y hacían 900, les quedaban 100 decoders ahí colgados con ese sonido. Loxam les daba la flexibilidad de la reprogramación. O sea que cualquiera que estuvo o trabaja con decoders sabe que uno puede cargar sonidos indefinidos en un decoder Loxam. O sea, una broma típica es ponerle un sonido de vapor, a steam sound, a una diesel. Eso se puede hacer porque el Loxam es very flexible. O sea, es muy flexible y entonces eso le da una ventaja sobre Soundtracks. Y obviamente vieron que esta compañía tenía mucho potencial y se estaba expandiendo en el futuro, más lo que destacamos al principio, esa extra carga que tenés en el decoder Loxam que hace que las locomotoras de ScaleTrain corran en la vía sin detenerse.
Y la parte comercial, mencionó que Loxam y ESU se produce en China. Soundtracks es de Estados Unidos. Obviamente hay aranceles y envíos, yo creo que es un factor.
Sí, como dijo James, China no les gusta importar y ya sabemos, a ellos les encanta exportar, obviamente. Entonces, eso les saca un par de trabas y es más flexible. Al final es flexible. Si digamos que los dos tienen la misma calidad, la diferencia que pesó mucho es la flexibilidad para producir modelos y sonidos.
Perfecto. Shane, are you okay if we start with the obviously the subject that everybody asks again and again, but in Mexico and other countries we have the same questions about
Sure.
MTH, about how are you gonna continue the business? Which models are the first one to produce? Which one are the second, and which one are you not gonna produce? Could you talk a little about this?
Sure. So we're still early in the fact finding on MTH from the standpoint of we have all the tooling moved to our factory, and now we're in the process of evaluating the tooling. We've prioritized it, but it's going to take several months. I can't remember how many hundreds, but there's like 800 or 900 pieces of tooling. There's a lot, and so we don't want to disrupt what we currently have happening for ScaleTrains. So we're actually hiring someone who will be starting soon that's going to lead the transition for us into production for MTH. We'll start with steam locomotives. I mean, that was the core reason we purchased the HO tooling. And I see us probably starting with like the Daylight 4449, the Norfolk and Western 611, probably like the big boy 4014, Challenger 3985, some of the more common popular locomotives, and then we'll move into the other products.
Okay. Traduzco. Obviamente ellos están al principio de la incorporación de la línea de MTH a ScaleTrains. Están evaluando un proceso que les va a llevar aproximadamente unos cuantos meses, porque no quieren interrumpir el proceso de ScaleTrains natural que tenía. Obviamente, si vamos atrás con la pregunta que cuando les preguntamos que la compañía de él en qué se basa, ahí está el planeamiento otra vez. Se destaca que ellos tienen un planeamiento, ScaleTrains tenía un plan y MTH se incorpora a eso, pero MTH tiene que esperar, esos productos tienen que esperar a que siga lo que ellos habían planeado anteriormente. Obviamente, también dice que esto le va a demandar más recursos humanos, entonces están pensando en contratar a una persona exclusiva para incorporar esta línea prolijamente, y nos dio ya unas perlitas, nos acaba de decir, y esto creo que es exclusivo, no creo que mucha gente lo sepa, pero los primeros modelos que piensan son los más populares, entre ellos la Daylight, la 449, la Norfolk and Western, la 6111, que es la discusión, obviamente Union Pacific con su Big Boy y su Challenger, la 4014 y la 3985. Y después de eso va a empezar a ver qué otros modelos, no se acuerda específicamente cuántos modelos hay, pero yo simplemente de lo que yo recuerdo desde 2000, creo que MTH empezó 2008, 2009, debe haber aproximadamente entre vagones y locomotoras más de 100 toolings.
Sí, esto es una noticia importante, que empiezan con vapor. Sí. Shen, I have a request for Mexico, 462. Sure. I'm looking at good quality for my Mexican Revolution train, 462. If you have in your plans or it's in the tooling of MTH.
I believe, if I recall correctly, MTH does have a Pacific as part of the lineup. Let me look real quick. I got to jog my memory.
Sorry. And I have Nico with a special request for you.
Yeah, you have a request also.
Hi, Nico. What would you like, sir?
Yeah. We need the triplex.
Whew, the triplex. We'll need to do a few steam locomotives before we tackle that one, because it's really complex with the 3 sets of drivers. But that'll happen in time. It'll definitely get done again.
Yeah, obviously that's a model. You know, at the moment, if you go to eBay, that model is selling for over $1,000 US dollars. Used model. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And you know, the MTH did it because we have a few models. Then we sold it because we follow that line what you explain at the start. Like I say, the evolution of the model. So we buy a model, we use it, then we sell it, and we buy the new version. So we are like changing the cast, let's say, yeah, in a way. So MTH did that. The traction of that locomotive was only in the first 2 drivers. So the last driver was without any traction, and the smoke was only coming from the front exhaust, not the last one. So you're going to do it with the triple traction, yes, and also please add the smoke at the end.
Oye, Martín, hay que traducir las peticiones que le hicimos a Shane.
Too early to know the answer to that just yet. Until we really get into the tooling and start working on some of the projects. I don't see us doing a lot of upgrades to the tooling. We're of course going to put in our own motor. We'll put in the ESU electronics, but I don't see us making a lot of detail changes, just from the standpoint that it would be much less expensive to start over than to try and modify something that already exists.
Ok, Eduardo, ¿querés traducir tu parte primero? Después voy con la mía.
Sí, le hicimos dos peticiones, un poco en broma y no, a Shane. Le dije que nos comentó que lo primero que va a hacer de MTH es la línea de vapor, las máquinas de vapor. Entonces yo le dije que ando buscando una máquina de muy buena calidad, 462, para un tren que tengo ahí en proyecto especial. Entonces me dijo que cree que sí hay un 462 Pacífico en MTH y lo van a revisar. Y Nico y Martín también tenían una solicitud de una máquina un poco más complicada.
Sí, la que le pedimos a Shane, que es el modelo, la triplex, esa locomotora que creo que fue prototípica, que corrió muy poquito en los Estados Unidos, pero es un modelo impresionante que tiene por eso se llama triplex, tiene 3, digamos, centros de tracción en la locomotora, y fue un modelo que MTH vendió mucho y que hoy en día, si uno busca ese mismo modelo en el mercado usado como eBay, está arriba de los $1,000, o sea, que realmente es un deseo que como modelistas quisiéramos volver a tener. And also change the UP turbines, please. All
that will definitely happen. Yeah, the standard turbine. We'll do the standard in the Veranda NHO.
Yes.
Oye, un poquito, ya no platicamos con Shane cuánto tiempo tiene, me imagino que 1 hora, un poquito más, pero creo que sería importante ahorita hacer la pregunta, ¿en dónde se puede comprar ScaleTrains? Las personas que no vivimos en Estados Unidos.
Okay, Eduardo would like to know where people living overseas or outside the United States, where we can buy ScaleTrains product, please.
That's a great question. So there's a couple of different options there. Of course, we have our select retailer network. We do have a few international retailers as well. Your viewers can find out who we sell to on our dealer locator on our website. We're also going to expand our retailer network probably within the next year to some more brick and mortar stores, and that'll be around the globe. The other way is to buy direct from us. We ship all over the world. We're probably to like 55 or 60 countries that we've shipped to at this point. And we normally, we've got all kinds of shipping options. Most folks use the postal service because it's less expensive. But we also use UPS, and from time to time, upon request, we've used FedEx. But we're in a very remote or rural, we're not in a city where we're at. So FedEx service or DHL service isn't nearly as strong as UPS and the post office.
Okay. Traduzco, obviamente ellos tienen una selecta casas de hobbies que venden sus productos, pero ellos tienen in-house, o sea, tienen su servicio de vender a clientes directamente desde su fábrica y utilizan los correos principales, o sea, como UPS, FedEx y el correo norteamericano para enviar sus productos. Se basan, obviamente, es una compañía chica, pero apuntan mucho al servicio al cliente para que uno esté contento, digamos, con su servicio. Jane, I would like to add this. Your staff is amazing.
Thank you.
Especially Michelle. She was very good, especially with me. Like I say, she will know my name around because I was asking so many questions. But really, the patients, they are very professionals. And also, maybe Eduardo would like to add the story of the lollies, because we here in Australia, we love the lollies and the stickers. We have your stickers all around. So, yeah, thank you. Like I say, the people that work with you is amazing, truly amazing.
I'll pass that on to Drayton and Michelle. Michelle's my wife, so I'll tell her.
Okay. We're gonna, yeah. Excellent, very good. Eduardo, si querés traducir y agregar tu historia.
Sí, un poco también lo que comentó, que por ahí hay varias preguntas en el chat que he visto de si va a haber distribución en México. Shane mencionó que en el próximo año va a haber nuevas oportunidades a nivel mundial, no especificó qué países, pero sí van a buscar en Estados Unidos le llaman brick and mortar hobbies, o sea, tiendas de verdad, no virtuales. Entonces, por ahí para nuestros amigos de México, creo que va a ser una buena oportunidad que alguien traiga la línea especial. Y bueno, obviamente se platicó de la calidad del servicio de la gente que trabaja con Shane, y bueno, se platicó un poco de su esposa. Holly creo que trabaja en marketing, es la que nos está ayudando. ¿Y de cuál historia dices? Perdón.
Los caramelos, los lolis.
My experience. Well, I have it. Oh, this is kind of funny. We talk about the Mexican customs. I'm going to say very, very quickly, just to share with the people. Consolidé un pedido de algunas cosas de ScaleTrain, y ScaleTrain, cuando compras directo, te manda dulces. Y muy bien, y la verdad es muy buen detalle. Ya me habían llegado, y la primera vez los pedí por servicio correo normal y no pasó nada. Esta vez los consolidé no me acuerdo si fue DHL o algunas de esas compañías grandes, y me tocó la mala suerte que abrieran la caja y los inspeccionaran, y al señor de la aduana se le ocurrió decir: traes dulces y no traes factura de dulces, no traes pedimento de dulces, tienes que pagar impuestos. Y han de haber sido 3 bolsitas, porque nunca me mandaron fotos. Yo, la verdad, pues, creeré que vendían dulces. Y cuando pregunto cuánto costaban estos dulces, la respuesta fue entre $800 y $1,000 por un pedido de $300 a lo mucho, entre cosas y ropa.
Wow.
Entonces, pues bueno, es parte de las peripecias que pasamos en México y Latinoamérica, con las aduanas, con customs. En Argentina no sé si también se digan aduanas, en Colombia, en todo más. Pues estas personas te hacen pagar impuestos muy caros que nos complican a nosotros la vida. Pero bueno, ya le dije a Shane que gracias por los dulces. Regresé mi paquete de Estados Unidos, van a quitarle los dulces, y espero que en un mes regrese mi paquete con lo que compró el ScaleTrain. Y les comento, eran mis call cards de 42 Ferromex. Se regresaron.
Sí.
Bueno, espero
que... Qué buen detalle que estén. Esos detalles son realmente una compañía impresionante. Eduardo, nos olvidamos una pregunta importante antes que cerremos,
sí.
Que son los modelos latinos. O sea, le voy a preguntar a Shane.
Perfecto, Shane, sí, digo, ya dio la primicia de la Ferromex en 2022, pero pregunta, adelante.
Shane, we forgot something very important, especially for people from Latin America, is the models you're making for, obviously, Mexico. You talk about that, but there is one special for people from Chile. Really, if you want to talk just a little, and if you plan, and well, maybe one day you can do an Argentinian model too.
So we're doing the SDL 39 for the railroad in Chile, and it's our first time really doing something outside of North America. It's pretty close to the model that from Chile. It's a little different in the fact that we didn't remove the fans on the top. It was just too expensive to be able to do that and still offer that particular model, but we felt like it was a good compromise to try something different. And it's really unique with the screens over the windows on the locomotive. One of the locomotives has the red bearing caps. And of course, it's got all the museum quality features too, if you buy the DCC and sound version. So something different for us. And, I think it'll lead to some more projects down in the future.
Yeah. So, le pregunté a Shane por los modelos latinos. Obviamente, lo que van a lanzar próximamente en calidad de museo es el modelo de Chile, de una compañía minera. Ellos, es el primer modelo que ScaleTrains hace fuera de Norteamérica. Obviamente, México está en Norteamérica, por eso es algo especial para la gente de Chile. Y decidieron que ese modelo era ideal porque había unos detalles que cambiar, pero no era tan diferente, excepto por los ventiladores de la parte de arriba, que era muy caro para hacer ese tooling. Pero cuando uno mira las fotos del prototipo y el modelo de ScaleTrain, está bastante parecido, y creo que cualquier chileno va a querer comprar esa locomotora. Yo la voy a comprar porque realmente es cercano a mi país también, y es hermosa locomotora y es especial.
Así es. Estamos entrando a la parte final. Digo, no nos chocamos tiempo, pero me imagino que Shane debe tener una agenda apretada, y aparte es sábado de gloria para todos los como religiosos. Hay una parte que quisiéramos si nos puede hablar un poco, Shane, la parte de donaciones. Ellos donan dinero a caridades, por decirlo así, para que Nico nos ayude con la pregunta. A ver, que nos platique un poco de esta parte que muchas veces no se conoce.
So we know you are donating through projects like your first responders and the Big Blow Turbine. Could you talk a bit about this and why you decided to do it?
Sure. So, we talked earlier about the business plan that we wrote in the beginning, and on the very first page, within the first half a page, when we talk about our company values and goals for the future, one of the in the top 5 is giving back. Mike and I, we feel very strongly that we were brought together as a company with tremendous talent and the ability to bring the company to where it is, and it's a higher power, right? It goes well beyond us, and it's the blessings of God, and in that, we're charged to give back. And Mike, and I believe, he was very strong about this in the beginning, and still today. Mike was very. He says, Shane, we've been brought together not just to make model trains, but to make a difference in people's lives. And our role is to make a difference in our people's lives, the folks that work for us, as well as the model railroading communities and our communities. So since the beginning, we've given back. With the turbine project to date for the 2 museums, I believe that totals over $40,000. That through all the purchases from our customers. Without our customers, we couldn't make those kind of donations. And then just here recently, we with the CSX Pride in Service program, we had an opportunity to meet the folks at CSX who led that project at Kentucky Steam, and we were making a donation to Kentucky Steam for the Spirit of Ravenna locomotives, and that caught CSX's attention, and they gave us some just unbelievable access to Pride in Service, and our commitment to them was to give back for Pride in Service. And there's 5 charities on the locomotives that benefit first responders, military, and police. And we just sent checks a couple of weeks ago, and that totaled $30,000 to those organizations. And one thing I'll say too, those have been very public, and we tend to like to keep things personal on that level. We do a lot more beyond that, and we do things every month. Both in time and in money, and your viewers can take a lot of, I guess, maybe comfort, or I'm not sure if that's the right word, but we really do give back, and a lot goes back into our local communities as well as into the 2 museums. We've done a lot with historical societies, and that's something that we'll continue to do.
Excellent. I think it's something really, you transmit that spirit beyond your company. We feel it's something special about ScaleTrains. We don't know what, really, because we are so far away, but really you can feel that, really, you transmit that,
Yeah, that connection. I feel the tranquility, the sound of the voice. So, but let's translate, because this is very important.
Sí. Bueno, obviamente la pregunta era sobre las donaciones, y dice que, volviendo al principio, dentro de la creación de la compañía, ellos pusieron algunos valores, y el valor de dar a la comunidad, de regresar algo a la comunidad, estaba dentro de los 5 primeros valores. Y esto es algo que discutió él con Mike, obviamente, Mike y Jane siempre tuvieron como objetivo dar algo, sea dinero, sea modelos, sea cualquier cosa, a la comunidad por todas las bendiciones que la compañía recibe. Y él, obviamente, como dijo, cree en Dios profundamente, o creen en Dios profundamente, y piensan que si haces el bien te vuelve, entre comillas. Es como una bendición que están juntos en un proyecto donde participan activamente en proyectos que alegran la vida a mucha gente. Uno de los primeros fue las turbinas en los modelos de museo, y simplemente ese proyecto juntaron alrededor de $40,000 que volvieron a ese museo, perdón. Y también donaron dinero a a Kentucky a un programa de vapor. Obviamente ahora están activamente con los servicios de emergencia, con militares, policías, bomberos, con los distintos locomotoras. Juntaron $20,000 aproximadamente. Y después dice algo muy importante: a ellos no les gusta publicitar esto, lo hacen porque lo sienten y no quieren contar nada, pero hay algo más que hacen y es realmente impresionante que una compañía solamente piense en dinero. Y realmente como cliente de ScaleTrains me pone muy contento y me da muchas más ganas de seguir soportando a esta compañía de esa manera. Así
yo
que
también
creo
voy
que es
a
algo
aumentar
muy
mis pre-orders. Voy a aumentar mis pre-orders en el futuro y ojalá esto se pueda transmitir en toda Latinoamérica, que algunas veces carecemos de empresarios con esta calidad moral y esta ética. Es algo realmente de admirar en todo el mundo, pero bueno, ojalá se permee mucho a los países de Latinoamérica, donde a veces sufrimos un poco de esto. Oye,
Claro.
Martín, creo que por la hora tenían dos preguntas, si te parece, la del consejo y un poco cerrar. ¿Te parece bien o quieres agregar algo antes?
Sí, vamos a la pregunta porque estamos cortitos y después podemos,
Sí.
realmente creo que podemos hacer un programa y discutir toda esta entrevista en detalle
Sí,
entre
sí,
nosotros.
hay mucho que sacar, pero sí creo que me parece.
Jane, the last two questions, because obviously we appreciate your time, and outside the emotion, I'm here with my son. He's the future. I can see he's the future of model trains. So ScaleTrains has anything thinking in time in the future how to attract these new generations into the hobby?
Yeah. So before we move to that, since I don't speak Spanish, I just want to make sure that your viewers know that how much we appreciate their purchases, because without their purchases, we wouldn't have the ability to give back. And I don't know if you communicated that or not. And I just want to make sure that.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Lo que Shen creo que extiende una gratitud a todas las personas que tenemos uno o más o 1000 o los que quieran modelos de ScaleTrains. Lo que él quiere transmitir, que gracias a nuestra compra, él puede donar y regresar ese dinero a obras de caridad. Entonces nos pidió asegurarse de que se traduzca bien esto en español y creo que, bueno, por mi parte seguiremos y creo que voy a aumentar ahora mi compra de ScaleTrains con todo esto.
Jane, the other thing is how we notice this also is because, when Nico sent you a little video of your train, you put it in your website, you share it in Facebook, you are very active. We saw your videos around, and like I say, not many companies take the time to show the other how we enjoy the models,
Thank you.
That makes it, that's the appreciation we like from factories. Like I say, look, we enjoy your project, your models, they are here, and that's, it's kind of loud kind of stuff, I don't know if it's the right word, but
I understand what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. So it's amazing, really. And obviously we translate that into Spanish, and we are here to support your company. I think after this interview, it's going to be more supported for sure.
Thank you. Well, to answer Nico's question about younger modelers, and I'm just not as aware outside the U.S., but I'll speak to here in the U.S. One of the things that we see, there's a few different things, but we find that a lot of youth and younger modelers are very focused on real railroads. We call it rail fanning here in the United States. And I see us doing a lot more in that world. There's a company called Virtual Railfan. I don't know if you've heard of, but Virtual Railfan has cameras across the United States. We're doing more with them in advertising and partnerships and some opportunities. And we feel like that helps us bring our brand to people who normally wouldn't see model trains. And then probably one of the big things, and this is one that is personally important to me, and I'm not sure how we're going to get there, but I really want to challenge modelers to be mentors. And because, we hear a lot about the cost of model railroading, and we understand that, and that's why we have the Kit Classics brand and the Operator brand. But when you talk to a younger modeler like Nico, and I'm sure Nico, I don't know if you would agree with this, but you really do like the models with the details and the lights and the sounds, and so it's kind of like the younger model or younger folks who are in the youth who are into the gaming, right? You got the console, which is very expensive. But you buy a super detailed locomotive, you can probably buy a couple for the cost of a game console. And then when you look at the games themselves, you could buy a couple of highly detailed freight cars for what a game costs. And so, even though there is less expensive product, it seems like younger modelers don't gravitate that way. They really would rather save their money and buy the more expensive, highly detailed models. I think a lot of it's going to come down to how can we immerse people into model railroading. It's going to become way more than just running trains forwards, backwards, speed, that kind of thing. What are the things that we can do to help, between the lighting effects that we've done, the sound effects, and I know there's a lot more that we could do. There's probably more animation that we could bring to model railroading. And there's other things too that, I can't share that we're working on, but that will help. You'll see that kind of age demographic come down lower and it'll be a lot more inclusive. And then the other piece of that is I'd like to see us, and it's kind of tough because the NMRA, with everything that happened with Boy Scouts, they've really stepped back away from youth because of the potential lawsuits. But, and I won't go into all that, but it's how can we as a manufacturer, and I would like to do this personally, is how can we support modelers who could mentor youth? Because really it's about that one-on-one time. Martin, it's you and your son working together on your model railroad. That's what's going to bring Nico's interest and help him grow as a modeler and learn his skill sets and help him become a better modeler. And when we instill that in the youth, as you guys, I don't know your stories, but I'm willing to bet you had a model railroad interest when you were young, and that's come back later in life. So if we can help folks like Nico enjoy their passion, and there's probably that point when he becomes interested in girls and cars and marriage and all that stuff at someday, and he'll kind of go away for a while. The interest will still be there, but he might not model at the level he likes to now. But hopefully then later in life, when things settle down and there's income and there's stability, that he comes back to the hobby. And so I think it's figuring out how we can pour into youth and help them explore their passion and enjoy model railroading.
Yeah, thank you. Sí, I'm going to translate. Jane dice que sí, obviamente la compañía piensa en las generaciones del futuro. Él usó como ejemplo a Nico, cómo ellos ven que obviamente quieren que exista esa calidad de mentor, o sea que la relación uno a uno, que las personas enseñan a las personas más jóvenes sobre el hobby, siguen y apoyan las comunidades virtuales de ferrocarril que existen hoy en día. Ahí lo hemos visto, es otra cosa para otro tema en otro programa, cómo existe ese mundo virtual entre las generaciones jóvenes. Pero él lo que destaca que justamente uno piensa que los trenes modelos son caros, sí, son caros, pero cuando uno lo compara al mundo virtual de los chicos que compran sus consolas PlayStation o Xbox, más los juegos, el precio no está tan lejos, tan alejado de un tren, una locomotora con sus vagones. Entonces realmente no la ven como es como una competencia, pero es posible porque la diferencia económica no es tanto. Pero sí, obviamente Jane o ScaleTrains quiere que esa relación continúe en el futuro, porque cuando Nico crezca, le pase lo mismo que a nosotros, que éramos chicos, que dejamos el modelismo y después tiempo más tarde volvimos cuando pudimos encontrar nuestros digamos, estabilidad en la vida y con nuestros hijos podamos transmitir. Jane, I would like to add on that one, like I said, really 100% right, you're spot on, that's what happened in my case, and like Nico came into the hobby and now he's taking the lead, and even he's taking too much control sometimes, and he say, don't put that grass there because it doesn't look good, and it is amazing. And as a father, I have that allowance to Nico, like I say, each dollar he invests in trains, I match it up with another $1, so he doesn't receive that allowance for X games or consoles. But yeah, amazing. But,
Martín, me gustaría resaltar la palabra de mentores que usó Shane. Nico te tiene a ti, mi hijo anda por aquí atrás en el otro cuarto. Por ahí hicimos un proyecto escolar, él hizo la parte del balasto y entre los dos pusimos el pasto y todo. pero me gustaría también comentarle a Shane que cuente con nuestros 2 canales, con este podcast, para por lo menos ser mentores virtuales. Mucho del origen, sobre todo más de mi canal, es el how to, de cómo hacer, ayudar a la gente, chica o grande. Entonces creo que esto cae perfectamente, desgraciadamente, en la era digital. Podemos ser mentores virtuales. Déjame decirle esto, pero creo que sí es muy importante. Shane, I just said to Martin that Nico obviously has Martin, my son Fabricio has me, but we would like to offer the channel to have like a virtual mentor for Spanish people. In our channel, we have how-to videos and many other things. And well, that's it. That's the present. The virtual mentor. Obviously, it's better to be one-to-one. And I know, and I'm confident that in the future we will come back to one-to-one person, one-to-one to be in touch. But in the meantime, please, you have Martin and you have my support as a virtual mentor in Spanish. If you have any project, we are right here with you.
Thank you. Well, I saw Gordy from the NMRA. Gordy had posted a message just a little bit ago, and Gordy, get it. Send me an email, and we'll get in contact, and we'll also talk too. So, Eduardo, I appreciate you and Martin and your commitment there, and I think that somehow, and I know there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes. You know, the father-son, the family unit, that's really important. But it's also for folks who don't have that, right? I mean, when I don't know if people know my story, but my father passed when I was 13, and I didn't have that initially. And my mother had found a local model railroad club, and it was those guys through my teenage years that poured into me. That's really when I learned the most about model railroading. And you know, if it wasn't for those guys, I don't believe for a moment that there would be a ScaleTrains. They did so much for me in my youth, and I think it's important that at some point, with the help of folks like yourself and Gordy and others, that we figure out how can we go beyond the family unit, and for folks for those youth and young adults who have that interest, how do we cultivate that, and how do we plant that seed for the future?
Yeah, traduzco, Shane. Sí, Shane dice que obviamente él destaca esta relación de padre e hijo, pero en su caso particular él perdió a su padre cuando tenía 13 años, y a través del ferromodelismo de los clubes locales le hicieron ese programa de mentor 1 a 1, y destaca la importancia, obviamente, de todo lo que estamos hablando. O sea, que realmente muy buena historia para propone. And Shane, something I would like to add before we move to the last question is like kids like Nico, you know, they enjoy this virtual world with videos, YouTube, Facebook.
Yep.
And again, you do input in those videos. It's great. So maybe in the future, if you could put something extra so they can post that and include more kids into, because they love to film models, they like to show that, and you know, without any levels, that's okay. Obviously, there are people that they have more or better layout, but doesn't matter. You know, the thing is how we channel all that energy and put in there from a train company. I think is great.
We have a new website coming this spring, and it won't be in day one, but over the next year, we're going to incorporate a community into the site. Excellent. And that's one of the things that we want that it will have, is the ability for folks to come and post videos, post photos of our products in operation. And so there'll be that engagement that we'll be able to have right on our website.
Okay. Le agregaba a Shane que también que por favor sería bueno que en el futuro gente pudiera, especialmente los más jóvenes, enviar sus videos y fotos a ScaleTrains para que ellos lo publicitan, y nos dio otra perlita, que es que están planeando un nuevo website donde eso será posible, así que dentro de poco, cuando lancen esto, no al principio va a existir esa oportunidad de postear fotos.
Sí, ya tenemos un programa lleno de primicias de lo que nos comentó.
Sí, realmente. Y quiero destacar la otra palabra que usó James, community, comunidad. Él piensa más allá de la compañía, él piensa en la comunidad, y la comunidad hoy en día es global. O sea, realmente esta persona está con la mira donde tiene que ir, comunidad.
Perfect. Shane, I believe that you work with Josh. Josh is, I believe, Also in the YouTube channel, they have a big layout, a nice layout. I don't remember Josh something.
Clark.
I believe it's AS Modeler.
Josh Clark.
And that's a perfect sample relation between father and son. The YouTube channel is amazing. They built this incredible layout in the basement, I believe, for 10 years. And I know that he made some videos for you of weathering ScaleTrains and many other things. And I believe that's the kind of mentor we need. And well, that's great. And as Martin said, community and the pictures and the new web page. Well, we're ready to join that, and I believe that's the way that we need to go.
Good. Well, we welcome you. It won't be too long, and we'll have that.
Excellent.
¿Te gustaría cerrar, Martín? ¿Tienes algo más que quisiera agradecer?
Before we close, Jane, the last question is, obviously we share a lot. Is anything else you want to share with us? Anything you want last message before we say goodbye?
I have just a couple of things, and first of all, I've seen some questions pop up from some of your viewers. Is there anything that we should address before we wrap up tonight?
Okay.
¿Te gustaría que hay unas son muy específicas, porque hay hablando de los acopladores KD? ¿Quieres que nos podamos meter en eso o se las podemos mandar?
Hagamos cinco preguntitas cortitas. Empiezo con la vi que una persona preguntó sobre MTH. Empiezo con esa, la del humo, y después cortitas.
¿Esta o la de humo? ¿Cuál es?
Sí, los decoders, Loxani y el humo de MTH.
Bueno, sí, empieza tú, sí.
Okay, Shane, we want to make very 5 quick questions because obviously your time.
Okay.
So we have a lot of messages. This is the more popular video at the moment, so great.
Well, if you have time, I'll make time. So it's as long as you guys want to spend.
Thank you.
For me, sister, so I have a lot of time. So one person was asking about MTH and the smoke. What's the plan with ScaleTrains with the smoke?
Smoke units.
They'll definitely have smoke units, and we'll work with ESU on the synchronized puffing smoke. There's some unique challenges because of using DCC, but I think we can work through it and make it very realistic.
Okay. Eduardo, ¿otra?
Sí, una de las últimas que salió de ahí, de las refacciones para MTH, de spare parts. Esteban is asking about the replacement for MTH spare parts. Are you going to handle this?
So we only acquired the tooling. We did not acquire the MTH name, their accounts receivable, anything like that. We didn't acquire the parts. MTH is planning to continue to service parts. They have a pretty heavy inventory still. And they're set up a company that they're going to service parts for at least a couple of years. We will get parts once we start production, but we have nothing right now.
Okay. There is another one, I think this is coming from the UK.
Hay que traducirla antes, perdón.
Sí, te voy a decir, I changed, digo, la introducción. Es una pregunta que llega... perdón, sorry.
Sí. Shane comentó que solamente adquirieron el tooling, y el tooling son, digamos, como las herramientas para hacer nuevas máquinas, que no adquirieron refacciones, pero en concreto dice que MTH va a poner una compañía que tiene un inventario grande que por lo menos 2 años va a tener refacciones de las máquinas viejas. Entonces, pues bueno, sería bueno prevenirse, tratar de comprar las piezas que normalmente se rompen, que son pocas con MTH, pero dice que Shane, ellos van a producir sus propias refacciones cuando ellos produzcan sus nuevos modelos.
Yeah. Okay, Shane, sorry, I was interrupting, Eduardo. I forgot about the translation.
No problem.
So we have a question from Andy from the UK. He said very nice things to you, and he said basically, God bless you for ScaleTrains, and very nice message from him. But he has a question saying if ScaleTrains is going to be in the UK in November of 2022. So I think as a general question is you're planning at some point to go overseas with exhibitions.
We are planning. We will probably do. There's a show that happens every couple of years. I believe it's in either Germany or oh boy, it's near Germany. I can't remember where, but All American Trains does that show, and it's a big show for them, and they've asked us to come and be a part of that. We were actually supposed to go last year, and of course things didn't happen. But I do see us at some point doing that. And, I know Mike, who leads our product development team, actually his wife Sylvia is from Mexico. And I know he'd like to do a show in Mexico at some point. And I'd like to go to Australia too. So maybe we can get down there, Martin, at some point.
Yes, of course. You are welcome. Traduciendo la pregunta y la respuesta, Andy nos preguntó si ScaleTrains planeaba ir a Inglaterra en el año 2022 y yo se la hice más general, si ScaleTrains planea visitar algunas convenciones fuera de los Estados Unidos, y dijo que tienen planeado ir a Alemania el año que viene. Están pensando en México también, y si Dios quiere, quizás Australia, donde sería súper bienvenido por nosotros. Eduardo.
Hay otra pregunta también de Hugo Lechuga. Nos está preguntando de si las máquinas MTH se van a incorporar como una línea adicional o se van a convertir en, me imagino que Rivet Counter o algo así. Déjame tratar de pasar esto. Shane, we have a question about MTH. Are you gonna make like a fifth line, or are you gonna convert MTH engines into a Rivet Counter line, or it's gonna be separate, or it's gonna be part of the company? Do you have think this?
So the steam locomotive line will become a part of the Rivet Counter line.
Okay.
The diesel locomotive line, we haven't decided yet. It's not quite Rivet Counter level, but it's a little bit more than operator. So we're not quite sure where that's going to end up. The freight cars are pretty much on a Rivet Counter level, so that's probably where they'll be. They do have some train set level cars. We may rebrand the Kit Classics line into a more of a just kind of a classics line. Still haven't made those decisions yet, but we're working towards that, and hopefully we'll have more information later this year. Our goal is to make our first announcements at Train Fest in Milwaukee in November.
That's right. Nice. Comentó que tanto las de vapor como los carros de carga se van a Rivet Counter. Las diésel dicen que no son totalmente operator, pero no son Rivet Counter, que aún no lo deciden. Y de los kits de MTH están también planeando. Esperamos tener noticias para un show muy importante en Estados Unidos, creo que es en noviembre, en Milwaukee. Train Fest, I believe es el nombre. Pero bueno, esa es la idea que se tiene ahorita. Por lo pronto, seguro, Steam y carros de carga a Rivet Counter.
Ok, y hago la última de gente de Luis Abraham Prieto, que pregunta sobre ScaleTrains, maneja escala N. So the last one from the public for you, or from my side at least, Jane, obviously MTH is taking all the attention, is something very new, but we didn't talk many about this end scale, like really again something you have an amazing models in the trial and running. So there is a person asking Luis, he's asking if you ScaleTrain, you have end scale models, and obviously yes. But if you talk a little about end scale models, the future, what if you have anything planning? We know if the verandas are coming, but if you want to talk about that, please.
Sure. Yeah, we had a challenging start in N-Scale, and because of that, we kind of stepped back for a period of time and let HO really drive sales, revenue, profits for us. And once that happened and we started making some investments, we did last year, we did a program with the Dash 9 called Get to Know Us, and it was a very aggressive promotion that really opened the door for us in N-Scale for people to see that our models really are to kind of the next level for where N-Scale is currently. And because of that, it's kind of helped us restart our N-Scale program. We have the N-Scale Multi-Max that we announced not too long ago that's coming this summer. And then we've also, it takes a while, right? We talked a little bit about product development, but we didn't get too deep there. A new freight car, from the time we say, yes, we're going to do it, and it gets added to our schedule, that's a key. Once it gets onto the schedule, it's about 18 to 24 months from that point to delivery. So you're about 12 to 18 months from an announcement. For a locomotive, it's about 2 years from being added to the schedule to when we actually are able to make that announcement, and about 2.5 to 3 years to delivery. So,
Wow.
you know, as we stopped for a period of time, now we've restarted. We actually have, I think, 5, possibly 6 all new N-scale locomotive platforms that we're developing right now, and several N-scale freight cars. But the problem is it's that time frame, because now as we've restarted it, it's going to be kind of, we'll probably announce a new N-scale freight car this year. That's going to be it. One more after the Multimax, just because it takes so much time. But in next year, we'll see at least 1, possibly 2 locomotives, and we'll see probably a couple, 2, 3 freight cars next year. And then as we get into 23, you'll really start to see that we'll finally catch up in the development schedule and have a lot more product.
Excellent, excellent. I translate. La pregunta sobre N-Scale, obviamente ellos al principio decidieron que la escala HO era la que iba a manejar la compañía, iba a ser el drive de la compañía, pero obviamente decidieron incorporar de los modelos N-Scale. Una fue la turbina y después vinieron las Dash 9. Las Dash 9 fueron muy exitosas y obviamente también tiene una línea de carros, de vagones en N-Scale, pero también nos explicaba el tiempo que lleva desde que se diseña el vagón o la locomotora, que va de 12 sorry. Your phone. Sorry. So el tiempo que lleva la locomotora es de más o menos 2 años, o sea, más los 12 años los 12 meses más los 2 años para llevarla al mercado desde que se planea. Y están lanzando un vagón este año, pero piensan volver el año que viene con más vagones. Change, I would like to add, here in Australia there is a transformation with the market. So N-Scale is driving now more than HO scale. So we notice when we go to expos, your 3-9, the UP we got for our layout, they run in many shows around here and they were success. They love them. They say also the color of the locomotive, because it was a yellow, like we call more weather yellow, they like that. Fade color. And like I say, there is a change here in Australia, at least I don't know in the US or in Mexico, but we can see like people with smaller houses, they start to reduce layouts and scale is possible. Okay. So, que en Australia especialmente la escala N tiene mucha atracción y que la gente obviamente con los cambios de tamaños de casa están yendo para la escala N más que la HO.
Sí, y sobre todo lo importante que se mencionó, el tiempo de espera, que puede tardar de 2 a 4 años, como dices, una vez que tengo el dibujo, lo mando a producir y la fábrica, pueden ser 3, 4 años. Entonces, digo, es otro factor que ya lo platicaremos, porque luego mucha gente dice, deberían hacer este modelo, deberían hacerlo y lanzarlo, pero es una inversión en dinero y tiempo. Entonces creo que eso es algo importante, no solamente el querer hacer algo nuevo.
Ok, creo que yo me gustaría cerrar con él y si no tenés otra pregunta. ¿Verdad?
Perfecto.
Ok.
Sí.
Jane, from our side, I want to again say thank you. Thank you for all the efforts, all the models and the people you employ. Really, again, amazing.
Thank you.
Your goals are the best. Obviously, you are welcome anytime if you want to come to Australia. We would like to have an special with ScaleTrains, maybe 6 months or 1 year. Maybe we can create the Easter special or something like that. Yeah. But really, we appreciate and all the details and the risk and how you share your story and your values. Really, I think you touch our hearts. What you said. And it's good to see that face and that driving power behind the model. So, Nico,
that's who we are.
Yeah, Nico, you want to say something to Shane? Thank you.
Yeah, just thanks in general. It's really nice meeting you. We've always wanted to meet someone from the companies that we buy from, and it's really nice to have that opportunity.
Well, thank you, Nico. I really appreciate your questions and pretty excited to have you on the show. I think it's really neat that having someone that's younger who can offer some new perspectives and just goes to show that there's a lot of excitement from folks like yourself who are younger that are the future of our hobby.
Okay. Yo, bueno, para traducirlo en mi última parte, bueno, le agradecí a Shane por su tiempo, por los esfuerzos, por los valores de la compañía, y Nico le dijo lo mismo, que agradece todo, y que es muy bueno finalmente poder conocer a la gente que está atrás de la compañía, y que, bueno, realmente es muy, muy grato llegar a este punto. Y Shane obviamente respondió muy cordialmente que él está agradecido también por la oportunidad.
Sí, igual de mi parte, es una experiencia muy buena estar en contacto con las personas que dirigen la industria, que se diera el tiempo de platicar con nosotros. Sabemos que es feriado, Eastern, allá en Australia, es sábado acá, pero aún así es un poco del tiempo que se está con la familia, y que lo haya compartido con nosotros, lo agradecemos mucho. Aprendimos muchas cosas, tuvimos varias primicias que luego las vamos a platicar, y realmente agradecer a Shane y a todo su equipo por permitirnos esto, y sobre todo hacer la primera evento inglés-español de una de las principales marcas del mercado, que es muy importante para nosotros, y por ahí vi ya varias personas que se van a apuntar con sus primeras compras, y pues bueno, creo que Martín y yo vamos a incrementar las nuestras. Shane, I just said in a few words, thank you for your time, for all. We know that this is weekend, that we are having time with the family, and you decide to spare some time with us. This is really important to not only Martin and me. It's important for all Spanish people who will see this podcast. And also, we have several key points that you mentioned about the web page, about Ferromex in the future, about many things that we need to talk, Martin and I. And we are really thankful with you with the time. And thank you very much. And we'll hope to see you soon, and be safe.
Thank you, Edward. I really enjoyed the time with you and your viewers tonight. Really appreciate them taking their time to spend with us, and appreciate you both and taking some time on a holiday weekend, and really look forward to visiting again in the future, and wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shane. And last thing, if you really enjoyed that one, I think you did, please share this to other. Let's say you want to talk with somebody from Luxon, or anyone who a hobby shop, they want to talk with us, because the idea of this channel is to promote the hobby. Mm-hmm. We don't have any interest as commercials, so we like to expand the hobby to this side of the world, or to the people who speak Spanish, because we granted like everyone understands English, and it's not. So yeah, anything you want to share about us, and yeah, invite people to participate, will be great for us, really.
Well, we will definitely do that. We'll also, once this broadcast is done, we'll also share it on our social media, as well as on in our upcoming newsletter.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Take care. It's great to speak with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, déjame ver. Ya. Pues Martín, gracias. Con todo el cambio de horario, creo que nos salió bien. Aquí también. Hoy cambia. Afortunadamente todavía es el mismo horario, pero va a cambiar ya hoy en la noche. No sé si se adelanta o atrasa, siempre me hago bolas.
Sí. Perdón por la improvisidad al principio, porque la verdad, sinceramente estaba esperando a las 10 de la mañana de Australia, y llegué y se me prendió la impresora. Fue medio raro, rush. O sea, perdón, disculpa a todo el mundo por eso, y hasta que uno se acomoda y con las preguntas estuve un poquito mal al principio, pero bueno, pido disculpas. Estamos tratando de mejorar estas cosas, pero creo que la edición de hoy es para guardar para siempre, y qué bueno conocer este tipo de personas, ¿no? Realmente esto da esperanza, ¿no? En general, no hablo simplemente del modelismo, en general a la comunidad, al planeta.
Sí, ojalá y se repliquen empresarios como Shane, lo resalto. Creo que fue algo que aprendimos mucho, y un saludo a Andy en especial, que estuvo con nosotros, a Gordy de Inglaterra, a Esteban, a José Carlos, a Hugo, mi amigo Hugo, mucha gente que nos estuvo viendo, a los que lo van a ver las transmisiones, a Axel, ¿quién más? A mucha gente, Mike por ahí también, Alan González, Andy Ambrose, ¿qué más está? Luis Abraham, Hugo, y bueno, hay mucha gente, solo por mencionar algunos. Pues te dejo, un abrazo a todos y ya luego platicamos, déjame termino la edición para mandarte todo esto para que tú lo tengas y también se lo voy a mandar a Shane.
Buenísimo, genial, nos vemos.
Déjame terminar aquí con esto, ya para terminar. Estamos viendo nosotros. Muchas gracias, hasta luego.